What's up everyone and welcome to this exciting tutorial. Now I'm going to show you how to animate graphics in 3D space and how to add this modern glassy look as you can see here, and also how to animate shapes in 3D space. So this is the outcome. You can download all of those graphics for free, link down in the description. And yes, I can't wait to show you how to not just track things in 3D space, but also how to animate them and make them react to your choreography, and at the final step, add the modern glassy look. So I can't wait to get this one started, so let's jump right in. Alright, first step is of course getting your footage, and I've prepared a POV shot here, which I'm going to show you now. So this is a 16:9 POV shot, which I actually shot with the helmet and the FX3, and you can do the same with just your phone. If you're not sure how to shoot POV scenes, check out the 3D tracking tutorial on the YouTube channel, where I go over the basics of 3D tracking and how I shoot my POV scenes with my phone. So make sure to check this one out too. As soon as you have your shot, you can just open up After Effects, drag in your clip, and that's exactly what I just did, what I prepared. And I also prepared some UI elements which I can place in 3D space. So look at those amazing UI elements, and I actually generated those with ChatGPT, and yes, I give them to you for free. So just check the link down in the description. You can just download them so you can follow along the tutorial. And I've also included the prompts, so you can try the prompts yourself and actually play around with it. It is a huge time saver. First of all, we're going to create a new comp with our clip, drag it here onto the new comp icon. And what I like to do is taking this clip and dragging it onto the comp icon again. So now we have that in a pre-comp, and we call this one main composition. Now we can actually drag this one out so everything is nice and well organized. So this is our clip, and the first thing we need to do, because we want to 3D track, is 3D track the scene, right? Let's apply the 3D camera tracker. Boom, just like that. You can also go here to the tracker panel and choose track camera, exactly the same. So here in the effects control, you can see the process of the 3D camera tracker. Alright, so the track is done, and we can now go through the clip and actually check the track. You should see now these targets popping up and also those tracking points, and now we can just select a few of them where we want to place our graphics. And I want to place the graphics on top of the monitor, so I'm going to choose this one here and create a solid and camera. Boom, just like that, we've created that solid here. I'm gonna make it a little bit bigger to actually check the track if the result is good. So I'm gonna slightly adjust orientation, drag it here on top, and I also like to apply the grid effect. I'm using here FX Console, but you can access all those effects. It's exactly the same as browsing it here in the effects and presets, but guys, really check out FX Console. It's gonna save you a lot of time. Yes, that being said, now I'm playing back and I check the track, and it actually looks pretty damn good. So it stays in the exact same position here. That's where I want to place my graphics. And the first thing I do, of course, before shooting is thinking about choreography, and here is the pretty basic one. So we're starting with clicking on a button where I want to say like open or something like that, so the UI can actually open up. Then I'm swiping through a couple of options, and then I'm selecting an option at the end. It's pretty basic, but I think perfect for this tutorial, so you understand how I animate graphics, HUDs, and how to create this glassy effect. So now it's time to prepare our assets we want to get in this video here. I'm gonna start with the apps PNG here, drag it onto a new comp, and now I actually have to mask them because this is not a transparent PNG, and here we have a black border. And also for the glassy effect, it's really important that we cut that out, that we have a shape with a transparent background and with just the shape. So the way I do it here now is I'm actually selecting the rounded rectangle tool, and now I'm trying to drag it as close as possible to the shape size below. Now I can slightly adjust it, and here on the apps layer on the PNG, I'm just using the shape layer as a mask. Call this one mask. And now you can see here when we talk on transparency, now it actually gets cut out pretty smooth. And you might wonder, why do I do it this way? It's because of the rounded edges. Now I can control the rounded edges of the rounded edges shape and actually define the roundness of the edges. So let's bring up the rectangle options here, rectangle path and roundness. And now look at that, just increasing the roundness, looks pretty good. And now I can adjust it slightly here to match our frame. Really important. Yeah, let's get it as close as possible. And we need to increase roundness even more. So maybe something like that. It doesn't have to be like 100%, but getting pretty close. So like 99% where you actually see like, okay, now we are matching it as close as possible. Cool. That is pretty sick, right? So now we can actually use this one right in our 3D tracked scene. So we jump back into our main composition. We drag in the comp we've just created. Boom. And now we can make it a 3D layer. And now it disappeared because it's somewhere in 3D space. Like it's somewhere floating around. Here it is, but it's not the position where we want it to be, right? So we just have to copy and paste the position of our track solid, which we have created here. And boom, now it's at the same position. And since we have already slightly adjusted the orientation of that solid, we can also bring up the orientation with pressing R, copy and paste it onto the apps layer. And let's make this one a little bit bigger. Toggle off the track solid. And now we have actually placed our first HUD here in the scene, which is super, super cool, right? So that was pretty quick. I'm slightly gonna adjust it here. I'm bringing it a little bit closer. So it's like a little bit closer to my hand. Nice, just like that. That is pretty cool. Yeah, seeing that everything works, first graphic is done. All right, and now I need to mask out all the other PNGs that I want to use here as well. All right, cool, so I'm done. I have now all these shapes I wanted to use cut out. So I'm just gonna use those 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now I'm jumping back into the main comp and I'm dragging the other ones in as well. So time, Spotify, portfolio, and calendar. So boom, dragging those in, making all of them 3D layers. And same as we did, copying now the position of the apps of the first HUD we already placed, pasting them, and also copying the orientation and pasting them as well. Boom, just like that. Now we can increase size. Perfect. And now we can actually place them here next to each other. So let's drag out the time a little bit more to the left. Spotify maybe goes a little bit more to the right. Portfolio goes a little bit more to the right as well. And the calendar too. So maybe something like that. Now let's check the track of all of those shapes, and damn, I think that already looks pretty damn cool, right? Now we have placed the shapes here, which looks awesome. But as I told you at the beginning, the first thing I do is I'm clicking a button, and I want to create this button next. So we're gonna start with the choreography all the way at the beginning. So we are creating this one just quickly custom. So I'm going to create a new composition here with a 16:9 comp, and let's call this one open. Boom, this is the open. And now I'm creating a quick rectangle. Oh wait, I'm first creating actually with the text tool, the text. And let's call this one open. Let's use maybe Montserrat, bold, something like that. Now here with the align tab, we can actually, if we have the layer selected, center everything. And now I'm creating a shape around the rectangle. We are in that rounded rectangle vibe here around it. Perfect. Now we can center this one as well here under align. Boom, boom. And now for that shape, I want the roundness to be around that. So I think the shape looks actually pretty cool. We can also go with a black background, and I also want to add a stroke here. Boom, just like that, so the button pops a little bit more. So yeah, that are the settings here for the button. For the button, you can just copy that one. Now we're dragging in this button as well. So let's for a second turn off all of our HUDs here. Let's drag in the open button we have. Yes, we can also make this one a 3D layer, and we want that position for the first HUD again in 3D space, and also the orientation. So yeah, that saves a lot of time just copying and pasting all of those position orientations, so everything stays in the same position. Let's now place the open button where we actually press it in the video, so somewhere around here. That is cool. And now we can start animating. And then at the end, when we have everything animated to the choreography, we can turn everything into glass kind of shapes. Let me quickly open up scale here. So boom, it goes from 0. Now we can easily ease them. Boom, up, maybe a little bit earlier. Or maybe we can also have the button right from the beginning inside, right? So it can stay here right from the beginning. And then when we click it, it actually pops up a little bit. So we copy and paste in the scale we have originally, and as soon as we click it, boom, it kind of reacts when we animate the scale here. Boom, I'm just easy them, boom, just like that. Yes, that's pretty cool. Like that, and here it can actually go back to 0, so the button actually disappears when everything else opens. So like that, yes, it's actually pretty cool. We can actually remove the last keyframe and make a small bump and then make it disappear. Go here into the curves, and I just want everything to happen a little bit more with a ramp. So we ramp it up here in the speed ramps. If you don't see that graph, you can just go here and choose the value graph. You can either edit the value graph, but I like to edit the speed graph. So just like that. I think that actually looks pretty cool. We can make this a little bit longer here at the end to fade out. But that's kind of fine tuning. Now we are laying everything down so everything looks good. Awesome. Right when everything closes, we want all of those time and Spotify portfolio HUDs to pop up, right? So let's turn on the visibility again, like that. And now here, we want that scale. So now they are scaled properly. So we open up scale, making a keyframe. And here, they should be at 0, all of those shapes. So we put all of the scales for all of those HUDs to 0. Boom. We can actually smooth them all like that. And now they pop up like this. It's just scale animations here. And I think that looks pretty cool. Boom. And maybe this open animation could be a little bit quicker, so it doesn't interact too much with the one here. We can also animate now the opacity on the open button. So with U, we're bringing up all the keyframes, and here at the end, I want the opacity at 0 for that button, so it kind of faster disappears. And yes, that is cool. Awesome. So that's how I build and think in this choreography kind of way. But first of all, we kind of need to build all of those transform animations to bring in the story, to actually make everything fit our choreography. So now to animate all of those rows going left and right like this swipe effect, we're gonna create a null object here, which we can call slider, for example. And now we make the slider actually also a 3D layer, and we're gonna paste the position and the rotation of our apps HUD again. Boom, and now it stays at the same position as all the other shapes, which is awesome. And now we can use this null object to slide all of them at once. I'm gonna show you what I mean. So now we're selecting all of the HUDs. We don't need that open button, but all of the HUDs, and now we parent them to the slider. Look at that now. If we're just changing the slider position here, we can animate all of them at the same time, which is pretty epic, right? Here we need to first swipe. So here the swipe begins. So we're making a position keyframe for the slider, and boom, here should be a slide end. So we go on maybe one frame or like one shape to the left. Let's move keyframes again. Boom, nice. And we go into the speed graph again. We want that to happen slower at the beginning, then zoop, go faster, and then come slower to the end. So we're gonna build the graph like that. You see the difference? That looks pretty nice, right? And here we have the next swipe. So here we're gonna make again position keyframe, go to the end of the swipe, and now we're going to, now we're going to go more to the left again. And just like that, we have another swipe. So really make sure it matches the timing. So here we go again, back into the speed graph, because if it's not matching your timing well, it doesn't look that good. So now look at what we've just created within a few minutes. Now we have that swipe animations, and of course you can add more and more overlays and more HUDs, and it's just gonna look better and better. But you still have to keep in mind that you need some focus to look at, right? So we have everything here in the middle, focus, looks pretty good. And now I'm selecting this one here. This one gets selected, this HUD, this position here at that time. So, and it's portfolio. So I'm going onto that layer here, making the keyframe again for scale. And then we're gonna make it pop as soon as I click on it. So it kind of reacts to our click. So boom, that's way too early. So we need to drag everything back here. So boom, yes, that looks good. Nice, that's awesome. Cool, so we kind of select it. And we can also add a Lumetri color effect to that layer we are selecting, which I really like. And open up basic correction, exposure, open up all keyframes with view, making a keyframe and copy this one at the end. So it should come back to 0 exposure. And in the middle of the click, I want it to be at exposure 2, for example. So it looks more like, you see, it gets brighter when I click it. And I think just it looks pretty cool, right? So, and now at the end, what I want to happen is that all of those, boom, so we select it and it goes out of the frame. All right, cool. And at the end, I maybe want to make them all slide out again. So let's edit the slider. So as soon as we selected this one, we are gonna create another keyframe for the slider here. And here at the end, so here I'm selecting it, and here it can start that all HUDs go out of the frame. So here, we're gonna make a position keyframe, and now we're gonna slide those out. Yes, like that, out of the frame. Let's see how that looks. So I'm selecting this one. That's a pretty quick one. So make sure you leave enough time for all these animations to actually, yeah, pop. So we could drag them a little bit further. Yes. So now it's a little bit slower, the animation, and it looks more realistic. So now we're swiping and we are selecting, and zoop, they go out. Awesome. And I think that already looks super cool, right? That's how you can animate all of those comms and HUDs. And if you want to change something here on those HUDs, you could just jump into the comp, make changes, like maybe add another text, like adding lol, LOL, and go to the main comp, and now it's just added, and you see the animation stays exactly the same. So you can even switch the pictures here, like the HUDs, the PNGs, which is super cool, right? Now, to make everything more realistic, we can select all of those layers, all of those HUDs, and actually toggle on motion blur. Look at that. Boom. And when we can see here, let's turn it off again. So now without motion blur, it just stays sharp all the time. But if something moves, it should have motion blur, right? So we toggle on motion blur, and just with one button, the whole animations just look way smoother and way better. Look at that. I love that. And you can see here, my hands should be in front of the buttons and the HUDs, right? So we can easily fix that with rotoscoping our hand to make it feel realistic. We just need to duplicate our base clip, and I like to call this one then rotoscope, and bring it all the way to the top because it should sit above everything. And now I'm choosing the roto brush tool here up to the top, roto brush. And now I'm finding a good frame where we can see my full hand, something like that. And now with the roto brush tool selected, let's first delete the camera tracker from that layer. It just makes everything smoother, believe me. Now I double click on it, and now I can brush my hand, like select my hand with the roto brush. It's actually pretty smooth. And if you deselect one or something, just hold down Option and you can deselect it. And this way masking is super fast. And then it's going to automatically, analyze all of the frames. You can change the size when holding down Command. But then when we have a good selection, the tracker does a really good thing, the roto brush, to keep masking our hand or selecting our hand throughout the whole video. So the first frame is really important that you make it as clean as possible here. And then if you're happy with your selection, you can just press spacebar and now watch it mask. Like this looks really good. And we can actually toggle on motion blur, use motion blur here. So you see now it actually knows that we have some motion blur in our scene. So rotoscope is actually working around that, which is pretty epic. I always recommend you guys shoot with a higher shutter so you avoid any kind of motion blur. That makes tracking and rotoscoping a lot easier. So let's make sure this runs smoothly, and this looks actually pretty good. I think the hand comes back up when we select now, and yeah, it catches it again. Nope, we need to select it again. All right, no worries. So let's make sure we select it again, and now it can track. That's dirty. let's fix that quickly. You can always jump back and fix frames afterwards. So I'm quickly gonna go through everything and make sure everything is clean. All right, it looks like the selection is pretty good. So I just let it run through one more time. Looks good. So for our case here, at the beginning, we don't really need it because the button starts up here. But yeah, if you want to adjust something later on, you can still do it here. And if you're happy with your selection, if you checked everything is good, you just have to click freeze here, and then it's going to, freeze all the frames, freeze the selection for each frame. And depending on how long your clip is, this might take a couple of minutes. So you can just lean back, make sure, drink some water, get a coffee, and I will see you in a second. All right, perfect. The rotoscope is done. We are done with freezing all of the frames. So let's jump back into our main comp, and now we can play it back and see how it looks. And this is always, I love that moment when you're done with rotoscoping and you see now how it actually looks, because now you can see the finger is clearly above our HUDs, and that totally makes sense, right? So this looks pretty cool. Nice. Now with the swipe as well. And now you wonder, Keanu, that looks good. We just animated all of those HUDs. I know how to animate them. That looks pretty cool. We have just rotoscoped our hand, which makes everything more realistic. But how do I create now that glassy, super nice, modern, sleek design? And guys, this is actually pretty easy. The last step I'm doing is then adding that glass effect, because any kind of blurriness is really hard and takes a lot of time for After Effects and machine to render. So I first create everything, all those animations without any blur on it. Well, we have motion blur now, but the blurriness on all of those shapes takes a lot of time to render. So I'm usually doing all those animation first and then adding in the final steps the blur. So what we want to do is we want to duplicate all of the HUDs we have just created, and we want to also duplicate the 3D track camera. So selecting all of those layers I want to duplicate, then Command D, boom, just duplicate them. And now with everything selected we just duplicated, we're going to pre-compose that and call this one Mask HUDs. Boom, nothing happened yet, but look at that. We now have a pre-comp with our 3D camera and all of our shapes here inside. Look at that. That looks pretty cool, right? So we have everything here on transparency, and you need to duplicate the 3D camera as well. That is the 3D tracking data we need for these shapes. And we can now use those files, those PNGs and masks and shapes as a mask for a blur. I'm gonna show you what I mean. So now we can actually create a new layer, adjustment layer, and we call this one glassy look. And the next thing we want to do is we set our normal layers here above our adjustment layer with the blur, where we apply the blur in a second. And now we apply a camera lens blur on that adjustment layer with the glassy look, and we increase the blur radius to around 60, but you can play around with that, what looks good to you. And now the magic happens. When we now select here for the adjustment layer with the blur, we select a matte, and we are going to select the mask HUDs we just created, boom. And just like that, with that mask, we are telling the blur where it should be applied, like just within that mask we just set. So now all we have to do is select our normal shapes here, and we're gonna set the blending mode of those to screen. Boom! Look at that. Now we have a really nice glassy look here, or we should have it, but it didn't work. So let me check what happened here. Okay, I did something wrong because I did not copy the slider, so it doesn't move with it. My fault. I'm just gonna delete the mask HUD again. So now make sure to also select the slider, all those graphics. So slider, all those graphics you animated, yes, and also the 3D camera, of course. And now Command D, duplicate it, and we're gonna pre-compose them again and call this mask HUDs. Yeah, it's gonna move all attributes, and now, boom. In that comp, you can see here, now the animation is also included. Good that that happened, because you really need everything in that pre-comp, otherwise it's not gonna match your shapes. So let's jump back into the main comp, drag this down, and for our adjustment layer with the blur on, we're gonna select the masked HUDs, the new one we created. And yes, just like that, it worked. Awesome. And now let's go to half resolution so we can actually see what is going on. And now you can see here, that looks really cool, right? And now you can play around with the blurriness. You can set it lower, let's say 30, so it's not that blurred, or you can crank it up to 100, but it's definitely gonna render longer. And if those shapes are too bright, I also like to add sometimes a Lumetri color effect and actually set the exposure to around -1, so those shapes get a little bit darker. And yes, that is a pretty basic gloss effect, but it's super fast. And I really like the look of it. That really enhances the overall look of the HUDs and the glassy look. And if you want deeper videos for the glass look, because you can do a lot with bringing in some gradient and some transparency and add more of kind of shadows, inner outer shadows to those glass shapes so they look even better, let me know down in the comments and we're gonna do a tutorial on that as well. But I just want to show you in this tutorial how to animate your HUDs in 3D space, your graphics in 3D space, and how to apply that nice kind of glassy look within a couple of minutes. You just saw it's super quick and it just looks so much better. Yeah, and you can download the HUDs down in the description. Just play around with it yourself. You can also try to prompt yourself in ChatGPT. It's really real time saver to use ChatGPT and create those graphics with it. And it's really precise on text as well. You can also share positive feedback. If something worked really well for you, post your link of your videos down in the description so we can check out what amazing videos you guys create with the techniques and skills you learn here on the channel. And yeah, of course, if you have other topics you would like me to cover on this channel, please comment them down below. And let's have a last look on the final video we have just created. And yeah, I think I just love to create those videos. So look at that, right from the beginning, boom, we're opening up, swipe, swipe. That glassy look is so nice. We can select something, awesome, cool. All right, so that's it for this tutorial. I wish you all an amazing day and I can't wait to see you in the next one.